Hi writers, this video is just a brief introduction to this week's assigned model essay on being 17, bright, and unable to read. This was written by David Raymond, and actually when he wrote this and it was published in the New York Times, the author was in high school. So this essay is really interesting because it was written by a young person and yet extremely effective in its ability to communicate a type of experience to the audience. So this is an example of an effective explication essay, and that's why we're reading it. We're also reading it specifically because the author does a really nice job of including some of the things that make an explication essay effective. So we know about explication essays. They all have focused thesis statements. In your explication essays, we'll be looking for a focused thesis statement that makes a statement about an aspect of your identity and what it is you want to communicate about that aspect of your identity to your audience. An effective explication also has a clear sense of audience and purpose. So it has a clear sense of who you want to know this information about, this aspect of your identity or of your experience, and what you want to change or what you want to happen differently in regards to how people treat or think about this aspect of your identity. So as you're reading David Raymond's essay on being 17, bright, and unable to read, I want you to think about where the author makes clear who he's talking to and what he wants from that audience. And there is a place very clearly where the author says quite directly who he's talking to and what he wants. So definitely be paying attention to that. Finally, we'll definitely be focusing on, in this essay, the author's use of compelling details and illustrations, which is absolutely key to an effective explication essay. In order to get your audience to understand something that they are not familiar with or that they have not experienced, it's imperative to use compelling details and illustrations that help the audience understand and then move the audience sort of emotionally as well as logically. So as we read, I want you to notice two different types of details that the author uses and that you will be using in your essay as well. Concrete details and abstract details. So concrete details are concrete, think concrete like grounded, hard, physical, right? So concrete details are specific experiences, specific events, or specific moments, things that happened to the author. So this could be, telling us a story about something that happened or telling us a story about a memory that the author has had. These moments, the concrete moments, are going to be grounded in specific people, places, and things. So they're going to say, I was at the park. I went down the slides. My mom was there, right? So very specifically grounding us in these moments, memories, events, or experiences. Abstract details, on the other hand, are details that tell us about someone's internal experience. So their personal beliefs, what they think or were thinking about, and how it felt. So for example, if you say that it made me feel sad, or it made me think about this, or I believe this, those are abstract details. Both of these are very important, but they become most powerful when they're done together. So for example, telling the story of I went to the park, I went down the slide, I fell, and my mom gave me a Band-Aid. That's all very concrete. But the reader doesn't know how to interpret that or how that impacted us unless we add abstract feelings. It made me feel sad. It hurt. But when my mom gave me a Band-Aid, I felt loved. Right? So combining those two together is often where the power of explication really comes through. As you're reading on being 17, bright, and unable to read, I want you to pay attention to how the author uses both and goes back and forth between the concrete and the abstract. Tells a story and then says how it felt, or tells how he felt and then provides a story or a specific example that demonstrates the abstract that was just explained to us. I also want you to consider the author's audience and purpose and the times in the essay when that comes through very directly. So, as we read on Being 17, Bright and Unable to Read, look for those concrete and abstract moments. Let's get started together. As we read the introduction here, think about whether this is mainly the concrete or mainly abstract. One day, a substitute teacher picked me to read aloud. When I told her no thank you, she came unhinged. She thought I was acting smart and told me so. I kept calm, and that got her madder and madder. We must have spent 10 minutes trying to solve the problem, and finally she got so red in the face I thought she'd blow up. She told me she'd see me after class. So take a second to think whether this is mainly concrete, specific people, places, things, a specific story about something literal that happened, or mainly abstract, the author telling us their thoughts and feelings about this experience. I would say the introduction here is mainly concrete. We're grounded in a very specific occasion and event that happened. While there are some abstractions mentioned, so I kept calm, she got mad, they're actually mainly told in a storytelling way. So for example, she got so red in the face. Even though there's emotion behind that, that's actually a concrete description. We can see it. It's imagery, right? About like what her face looked like, the redness of her face. I thought she'd blow up. Even that is sort of grounded in a concrete thing. So it's very interesting here how the introduction immediately like plunges us into a concrete specific experience. In fact, that's a really smart way to begin an explication essay because it immediately like puts the reader in your shoes. So I think we can learn something there about crafting an essay. So as you continue to read, continue to think about when the author uses those concrete moments and when the author gets more abstract and explicates more about what it felt like to go through these different types of things. So we're looking for those concrete specific examples or stories, and then those moments where the explanation is more focused on explaining what it felt like to go through these different types of things. As you read too, we want to think about this essay as an example of explication, but we also want to think about what we can learn from this essay, because that's, of course, related to the purpose and the audience here. So we can think about learning disabilities in school in general, how they were treated then in 1976, and whether things have changed or not changed in how we treat and see people with learning disabilities in school, and whether their experiences have changed, or to what extent maybe we still have a lot of work to do, and what we can learn about people with learning disabilities such as dyslexia from reading this, because after all, that's the point of explication, explaining something to somebody who might not understand. Let me know if you have any questions, and I hope you enjoy this quick read on Being 17, Bright and Unable to Read.